Hello! It's been a while since I actually did a voiceover, and this one is probably going to be all over the place, because I wanted to do both a little walkthrough of the process for this cover, and also just general updates on things, since I don't really talk much on this channel anymore. But this is the cover for the Pumpkin Cells Real Estate issue 16, which, as you might be able to guess as you see things coming together, is sort of like Christmas again, because I cannot stop writing Christmas into this comic for some reason. But, yeah. As you can see here, I am so out of practice doing voiceovers, and this is just going to be like a one-go, little to no editing on this, so apologize for my weird rambling and bah. But anyway, getting everything sketched out. I wanted this cover to be sort of a play off of the previous issue's cover, where the mood is a little bit somber on issue 15's cover, but this one, there's been a lot of character moments, and things are getting brighter, which is also reflected by the title of this issue, which is Mary Returns. But to make things easier on myself, I did trace decent portions of Lantrell from the previous cover, and I think that made it way easier. But I decided, since I plan to do a wiki for the series at some point, and I would like to do full body pictures for the characters on that instead of just doing this as sort of a flat image, I would separate the characters out and make full body assets that I can copy paste and use for promo images and just as references. Which I hadn't actually thought of that idea until I started on Jeff here, so I was really just going at it like it was going to be just a flat cover image, and here is where I finally sort of scooted over and started sketching things out and adding to the characters and figuring it all out. But I haven't really posted much on YouTube, and I haven't really even posted comic updates in a hot minute, because as a lot of people probably know, I got married back in December, and that was a small private wedding, and we had a bigger wedding to celebrate with friends and family in February. So I have been super busy between all of that and moving and just adjusting to married life, because this is my first big move in like 20 years. I lived in the same place for most of my life. And there's just been a lot to readjust to, and getting used to the new routines and new schedules and everything. It's just been a lot, which this cover wound up taking me about 9 hours, I think. And a lot of that is because I did many different sessions. Like, the line art for each of these characters was done in a different session that took a decent chunk of time, because I just kept noodling at it and was just having a hard time figuring everything out. But there are a couple little bits, like on Effie here, I did not remember her little ear pieces of hair. That doesn't make sense. The pieces of hair that are usually in front of her ears. So I do jump back and add that in, but I'm not sure if you can see it in the time-lapse because of the way I edited things. Had a ton of fun with her shoes. I just really like those boots. They're fun boots. But yeah, so I need to get back in the swing of updating my comics and everything, because I absolutely intend to finish all of these projects that I have going, but this is something that I might make a more in-depth video on at some point, but I've just found that I don't have the same drive to work on comics as before, which kind of sounds like a bad thing, but trust me, it's good, because I used to view all of the art and comic stuff as sort of like, I needed external validation, and that was how I got it, was drawing and art and everything, which is kind of a shame, but also I've found that I no longer feel like I need that, and I've also married a man who is very well employed, and I no longer feel like I have to ruin my body trying to make money from my comics and art, and I can do it more as something to enjoy as opposed to work, because it had gotten to a point that I have permanently injured my arm from how much I pushed myself to work on everything, and now I don't have to do that anymore. And it's been really weird readjusting mentally to not feeling like I have to hurt myself to do things like this. But like I said, I still plan to do comics, and I love drawing. It is like my favorite thing to do, pretty much. But I've learned to slow down and pace myself better, and I'm doing it less for the money now. So I don't know how to explain it terribly well without launching into a big long thing, but hopefully that makes sense. And maybe it sounds bad that I am just relying on my husband's income now, but at the same time that was something that we discussed quite a bit when we were dating, and he said that he didn't want me to feel pressured that I had to work because he earns enough that I don't have to do that, and it is a huge load off, and it just works well. Because now I'm not going to have to constantly be getting medical treatment for my arm, hopefully. It's also recovered a fair bit since I have taken time off from working myself like crazy. But now I'll let go of that for now and just focus on telling you a bit more about the piece and just comic stuff. I had tons of fun drawing characters, like for example Jay and Frankie. I have not really drawn them much in quite a few issues just because of plot reasons. They weren't really around, but I realized I've only really drawn Frankie in like 1 or 2 outfits, so coming up with what her fashion sense outside of work would be was a lot of fun, and I feel like it kinda does a good job reflecting her personality with those ridiculous fluffy boots. Very warm, I'm sure. So now that I've gotten the line art done on all of the characters, I do this usually with all of my pieces. Not usually the sequential art for the Pumpkin Cells Real Estate because of weird workflow stuff, but you probably saw me filling in the character as just a flat thing of green, which I'm about to do that on all of the other characters here, and that is so that I can see what I'm doing, and I just fill all of it in, and then I lock the alpha on the layer and turn it white, and then I do all of my coloring on a clipping mask on top of that so that it stays confined to the character line art. That might not make a ton of sense for people who aren't super familiar with layer modes and stuff, but it is a workflow thing that I've really gotten into, and it works great. So definitely encourage doing the outlines with a character just as a color that you can see clearly. And a lot of the work on the actual character colors are done just with the brush. That does most of the heavy lifting because of the texture and the way it flows. It just does a lot of it for me. And I usually use 2 separate brushes, like for doing the base of a dark color like black, I will use a more opaque brush just so that I don't hurt my arm as much when doing it. And it gives it a much more even color laydown, and then I go in on top of the black with the more soft, runny watercolory brush and use that to add the texture. So you can see me doing that here with the boots to add that bit of shine. It's really nice to just work with the negative space using that softer brush, and it gives a lot of depth really easily. I don't know how to even describe how the brush works. It just does, and it's great. A lot of people will say it's not the brush that does the art or makes it good, and it's like, no, but it helps. I can do this same technique using other brushes, but this specific brush makes it quicker, easier, and way more fun. I unfortunately tried to find this brush again recently because I downloaded it from the Procreate forums. Since I am drawing this in Procreate, cannot find the brush anymore, pretty sure they unlisted it. But here I am, just putting the finished characters into the scene, which I just used the same background as the previous issue's cover and added the lamppost, wreath, lights, all of that. And then I go in and noodle with it and add different layers and just try to make it fit well, which initially I was planning to just sort of leave it like this with the lighting on the characters and having them all sort of the same depth. But I felt like the focus was just lost. Like, compositionally, Lantrell is still standing out pretty decent, but I wanted him and Yumi to be the emotional core on this cover, so I decided I was going to go in and add a layer of blue over the characters, which that took a bit of deciding how I wanted to do it, but after I figured out that I wanted the others to sort of fade into the background a little bit, it just made it so much easier to make Lantrell and Yumi the good focus, and I think it turned out pretty good. Again, sorry that this rambly voiceover was just all over the place, but just trying to get back into the swing of things and figure it all out. Hope you enjoyed the video and just looking at the cover and all of that, and hopefully there will be updates of the comic again soon. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. God bless and take care.